Wowzers, it is so bright in here. Holy shit. My my dogs, because we're staying in this place just in Lisbon, of course. So my dogs, the pool man came to do the pool, which we never go in, which is always the way with pools. Came to clean the pool, and the dogs went insane. So I just had to have like a running go and save the pool guy from getting eaten alive by our puppies. Although I don't think he probably would get eaten alive. But anyway, how are you? Happy bloody Monday. Hope you've had a wonderful day, whatever you've been doing, and got a very, very special night planned for you tonight. This has been the combination of a lot of stuff we've been working on with Mark. But before we kind of get into that, let me see who's on my call, see what's going on. I've had, by the way, a bloody awesome weekend. It was sunny as can be here, and we finally got to go to the beach on Saturday, where we are, which is kind of on the south side of Lisbon, across the bridge. Yeah, we finally got to go to the beach, which was stunning. So if you haven't seen the pictures of that on my Facebook page, go check them out. Some really good ones. You'll notice as well, I actually noticed that my oldest daughter, Isabella, who is 13 going on 18, is actually the same size now as my lovely, lovely wife, Natasha. So we've been taking the piss out of my wife, Natasha, all weekend about that. Anyway, let's see what's going on. Bippin, g'day Bippin, how are you, mate? And Marcel, g'day, g'day. Lots and lots of folks. We've got like a packed out thing for tonight's proceedings. Hey, Mark, how are you, mate? You don't actually need to share your webcam unless you want to. I mean, you are very, very handsome. It has to be said. But unless you actually want to share your webcam, you don't need to, okay? I'm going to say good day to everybody. Your mic is muted too, just so that you know. Okay, just so you know. All right, so Maria, how are you? Hope you are doing good. And James, hello, hello. Crystal and Mr. McCarthy. Yes, very good after my great day at the beach. I suddenly felt like, oh, the world is okay. The world's going to be okay after all. Hey, Jenny, how are you, love? And Kevin, we are still in lockdown. Hopefully a week today, we should kind of enter a better phase of no lockdown. We can find out from Mark what's going on in, he's in Spain, in Barcelona. So we can find out what's going on there. Hey, Peter Basto, g'day, g'day. And Belinda, you've got a public holiday. Well, screw you. I'm working. But I always work on public holidays. Mr. English, g'day, g'day. And Elaine, still in the country, back to the city on next Sunday, unless we stay in lockdown, in which case we're going to spend more time here. Much better being here. Hey, Carl, g'day, g'day. And Kerry, I know, I'm excited too, I can't wait. Hello, Yvette. Happy Labor Day. Shouldn't be called that, should it? Shouldn't be called like Happy Labor Day. They should call it Happy Day Off Day. Leandro, g'day, g'day. And Mary Burke, how are you? Do I use a ring? Usually yes, but I don't need to today because the sun's kind of streaming in. Where's the painting gone? I took the painting down because Natasha said to me, you can't have a painting of this buxom young island girl behind you. Nobody will take you seriously. I'm like, Natasha, nobody takes me seriously anyway, darling. So anyway, I had to take it down. Hello, Eddie, how are you? And Scotty Erwin, g'day. Chrissy, hello, Chrissy. And Anthony and Annette, Jeff and Ronnie Isco, rainy day. Yeah, I know the artwork's gone. Everybody wants the artwork. It's gone. Peter Kales, g'day, g'day. And Hildy and Nikki, how are you? And Nick Hemstall. Anais, I know the beach is beautiful, eh? What a fantastic bloody place. And Jackie, oh, you did a helicopter flight, says Jackie. I am super jealous. One thing I would love to do, you know, when I become a billionaire, is buy a helicopter. I just think that would be awesome fun to have a helicopter. They're such good fun flying. Hey, Kathy, how are you? And Chris Paget in Coffin Bay. Best oysters in Australia in Coffin Bay. Absolutely stunning. We had some friends come over on Friday and he brought some Portuguese oysters over. And I was like, yeah, they're okay, but they ain't as good as Coffin Bay oysters. So hello, Ivan, how are you? And Davo in Darwin. Mary and Tracy. Hello, lovely Tracy. Hayden, g'day, how are you? Alex and Cass. Hey, Cass, how are you, love? And Kathy, hello, darling, how are you? Lewis and Vicky. Vicky Post, thank you so much for organizing the AOE meetup in Rocky. That looked awesome fun. And if you went along to that, massive thanks for going along to that too. That looked uber good fun. Lewis, lots of love here for merchant words. I know, I love merchant words too. And Lindsay, g'day. And Dominic has finally recovered. His liver is on the mend after his big night out. Complete lightweight, Mr. Corradini. Can't handle his booze. Like me, getting old now. Hello, Shailesh, how are you? And Gary and Jenny, yes, we've sorted the feedback out. I think Mark's figured it out. And Celeste and David, I'm glad you enjoyed the pics. Hopefully, now this lockdown's ending, I can start getting out more. I hope so, otherwise I'll go insane. I may start murdering people. I don't know. Hello, Hassan, how are you? And Diane, Adelaide Cup, bloody awesome. Hello, Debbie Elford, how are you? And Michelle, Davo, yes, we've sorted that. And Nisha, and Jessica, hello, Jess, how are you? And Nicole, all right, so hope you guys are good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my camera off because there's no reason to see my ugly face while Mark's having a bit of a yak. But before I do, let me turn my camera off. Mark, you feel free to turn yours off too if you want to. Let me kind of talk a little bit about merchant words for you, because it's taken me, I will not lie to you, it's taken me quite a while to get Mark to jump onto a call like this. So I kind of want to give you a bit of an update on that. I actually checked in last night. I've been using merchant words since 2016, and a mate of mine who currently sells over $10 million a year uses merchant words. And when I first started working with Amazon and doing shit on Amazon, he said to me, you've got to use merchant words. I suppose we're amongst friends here, so I can tell you what he actually said. He says, Jungle Scout is good for beginners, but the real pros, they want the data. And if you want ace data, you've got to use merchant words. That was kind of, word for word what he said for me. And I, coming from a background in affiliate marketing, data for me was absolutely key. And so I got myself hooked up with merchant words and haven't looked back since. I reckon I'm a power user because I pretty much use it every single day, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And what I really like about it is how open to feedback and open to suggestions the merchant words team is. And it just kind of seems that nothing is too much trouble for them. You know what I mean? Like, you sometimes get these companies and after a while they don't really respond to you and shit like that. Merchant words for me, doesn't matter what I've been asking for, what I've been doing, they're like super responsive. They're always like, yeah, we can do that for you. I just love that. I just love that. And I actually use merchant words for my Shopify store and also for my eBay store too. So it's not like I'm just using it for Amazon. I use it for freaking everything. And what I found is the data is all the same. The data is all the same. And now I've been lucky enough to get invited into their beta testers, where I get to see all the new shit that they're doing and kind of get a glimpse into that before they actually release it. And I am continually amazed by the stuff they bring to market to help people like you and me sell things on Amazon, which kind of leads us here today, because as part of that beta program, I saw them releasing some uber cool shit, and I was like, we've got to get that out to all the AOE people before it goes out to the general populace so that we can get the advantage on that. And so I contacted Mark, who I'll introduce in just a sec for you, and just basically said, hey, can I tell everybody about what you're doing before everybody else gets to find out about what you're doing? And he was like, yeah, okay, no problem. So super cool of them. I really, really love the ethos they've got. So a couple of words about Mark before I hand over to Mark. So Mark is the GM for merchant words. So he's a general manager, so the buck kind of starts with him. But what I really love about Mark, and this is something I've subsequently found out getting to know the guy more, before that, he was what's called a growth hacker. Now, if you don't know what the hell that means, That just means his job was to work with startups to help them scale and grow to big numbers. That's what a growth hacker does. That's what he's super, super good at. So the very, very first time I met Mark, coming from my background, clearly we got on like a house on fire. He's super, super passionate about helping people just like us to make money online. And I know that you're going to really, really enjoy his company tonight. So with that little bit of an intro being said, let me just hand over things to you, Mark, so that I can make you the presenter, and then you can share your screen and do all that cool shit, okay? Make presenter. There you go, mate. So you should now be able to get asked. Your microphone is still a little bit not quite live, okay? So just so you know, the mic's a bit not quite live.
Okay.
That's it. We've got you, mate.
All right. Fantastic. Well, thank you for that amazing introduction, Neil. Just super honored to be here tonight. First, just wanted to thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for just sharing your time with us. We know that time is the most precious resource that we have, and just really wanted to say thanks for spending the time with us. I know it's late. It's actually morning here for us here in Barcelona. Same for Neil. And so it's, for us just kind of getting going, and I'll try to keep the energy up as much as possible. Also wanted to thank you for submitting your questions. Just super awesome questions that have come about. I will do my best to cover all of them. We've got, looks like about 50 minutes left, 51 minutes on my clock left. I want to be respectful of everybody else's time as well, but yeah, they're really good questions, and I hope to be able to kind of get this along. So I must apologize, like, I've been scrambling because I'm normally like a Zoom person, and I'm not affiliated or sponsored with them. So I'm just like kind of scrambling to get started on GoToWebinar. So just bear with me for 1 second, because I had a couple of things that were set up, and now it is not necessarily doing that for me. So just give me 1 second.
I've completely messed up your flow by using some outdated technology. That's...
No.
We've been using, I started using GoToWebinar and just kept with it, but I've been using Zoom for my advanced courses, and I've really enjoyed the video style of being able to do that. So that's something we've looked at. Although the ruthless shenanigans that happen in the back scene of these bloody Q&As, I don't know if I should have the video chat live. They are absolutely debaucherous here at the Aussie Online Entrepreneurs. They tend to get drunk and then just relentlessly take the piss out of me, which is highly entertaining for them, of course. So hopefully we can get that figured out.
Yeah, I don't know, is my screen showing to everybody? Can you see?
We cannot see your screen, so we've got to figure that little one out. Let's have a look, see if I can. So you are the presenter. Oh, there you go. You got it. You got it, mate.
Yep.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, my apologies for the technical difficulties there. And if everybody sees, we can get started. So again, thank you so much for joining us. Lot to cover today, but I hope to do so in the most effective way possible. So let's get started. What I'd like to cover today are just, basically who is Merchant Words. I'm going to assume, most of you don't know anything, and apologies if some of this is redundant to you. But there are some things I think as well that some bits of information that don't really get out about the company. And I'd love for the opportunity just to kind of tell you a little bit about what we've been doing over the past couple of years. Talk a little bit about big data trends that we're seeing as well. And then we'll do a couple deep dives into the kind of main uses of our data. So the three main uses would be product research, search engine optimization or SEO, and then PPC. And then time permitting, during the end, we'll do a little bit of Q&A. And then, of course, if there is no time available, I'll make myself available to you via email or wherever you may be on the internet to answer your questions. So let's dive right in. All right, who am I? President of Merchant Words, General Manager since 2016. As Neil had mentioned, I've been working with startups in digital media for over this past 17 years, helping to grow and scale companies. Some of them have gotten public. Currently based in Barcelona, I am a data nerd. I must admit, I love to play with numbers, and I love to build websites, and I love to build applications. So here I am today. It's been a wonderful ride over the past couple of years, not only getting to work with George Lawrence, our founder, who is just a dynamo of a human being, but just getting to know e-commerce. It's something that actually a couple of things that I want to share with you in terms of like data that, like the macroeconomics of what we're seeing is happening and what I've seen on the internet, that to kind of hopefully paint a picture of what we're all stepping into over the next couple of years. All right, so what is Merchant Words? So essentially the easiest way to think about us is we measure supply and demand on Amazon, right? We get all of our demand data from the autocomplete bar on Amazon. Always have. So since day one, George, who is the founder, is this guy right here on the top left. He just thought, well, I wonder what would happen if I just started to save all of the keywords that came down from the autocomplete bar. That was back in late 2012, 2013. We flipped on the switch and we hit what's called product market fit right away and basically just took off. So we were one of the first keyword tools in the space, surprisingly, because Google SEO had been around for at least over a decade by then. And so that he just took off. And then a couple of years later, he reached out to me. He said, "Hey, I need somebody who does what you do, Mark." And I said, "Of course," because we were working together previously and just had been super close and really good friends. We've been 100% remote since day one. One of the beauties of working with this man and is the ability to just kind of create the company we all wanted to create. Perhaps you've yourself kind of been in a position where you would have you had a superior or something maybe way back when and said, oh, like I would have done things differently, or I would have done things differently. Well, here's my chance to do things differently. And we have done that, and we've built a completely remote company that's sort of set us up for what has happened over the past year and kind of forced remote work. I think we were already a little bit ahead of the curve for that. We've been working with over 150,000 sellers since 2012. We represent all of the major marketplaces all over the world. Many keywords have been indexed, and we have millions and millions of products that we pull in. So again, that's essentially what I did. If I can kind of just elaborate a little bit more, is back in 2016 and 17, we set off on a multi-year project to build a big data company. And what we saw as a competitive advantage in the marketplace was to actually double down on this data, because if you know what people are looking for, then it's easy to find out what shows up on the other side of it. And so essentially what we built is a system that can at really massive scale collect, analyze, organize, and then get ready for some kind of consumption, usually in the form of a website. All this really good data on Amazon. So that's essentially what Merchant Words is. And so we're now at the point where we've built this massive technology base that we can use and collect massively. It's about 100 million keywords in the US alone every single month that we pull in. And every single month we see about 30 to 40% change in those keywords. So there's a lot of disruption that happens in the marketplace, and we see all these things because we kind of have a bird's eye view of what's happening on Amazon. So I think one of the questions is, how do we distinguish ourselves from everybody else? And hopefully that answers that for you, which is to say that we put a premium on data, meaning we try to understand what's happening throughout all of Amazon. And really, it's not much of a secret, but if you just start with what people are searching for, then you can kind of resolve to what's out there on Amazon. So hopefully that addresses that question. Okay, on to some a little bit interesting things. I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit quickly because I mentioned I'm a data nerd. I'm also a political economy and economics is a bit of a hobby horse of mine, and I know that that's not normal for most folks, but I think it's still informative and instructive for everybody, SaaS companies to e-commerce businesses, to have an understanding of what's happening in the world around you, and hopefully I'll be able to paint that picture quickly. And then if we want to follow up, like I said, it's my hobby, so I'll talk about these things. Okay, this one really shook me. So I'm going to show you just two things about what is happening over the past year since COVID. So this came from a recent report from a fellow named Benedict Evans, who's a former venture capitalist, analyst, and he just does really good things. So if you find him on the internet, I highly encourage you just if you're interested in this stuff, to dig in. But he shows a picture of like, what is the traditional view of e-commerce? And if you look at the bottom there, that very thin slice is e-commerce, right? And that's kind of the growth of e-commerce over the months, over the years. And you see it's just kind of like steady, steady, steady growth. And this is like e-commerce as a percentage of all of retail. So it's pretty small, right? Even though, you know, hundreds of billions of dollars are being transacted, just wanted to give you a sense for the scale of things. Well, and then COVID happened, right? So what happened is, well, there's a major shock. And if this is the orange line you saw earlier, it's just a major shock that happened and basically changed the patterns of consumption. And this is probably nothing new to you all, but I think the information here is really instructive, which is to say that this is here to stay. If you look at the trajectory of how things are going, and then if you look at what's happened over the past year alone, suffice it to say, we're about 5 to 10 years ahead of where we should be. And so we as a company, Merchant Words as a company, is preparing for that. So like whatever we were doing 5 or 10 years from now in our strategic plan has to happen today. And so as it relates to your own business, we would encourage you to also think about these kinds of things like, well, given a world where everybody now recognizes how important and valuable e-commerce is as a logistics machine, as something that provides this level of convenience to help your life, we are there. We're totally there at that point in time. So there's huge amount of opportunity here. So the question is, if there's opportunity, who is winning? Who won? Right? And so from our perspective, like I said, we have a bit of a bird's eye view on things. So I want to show you just a couple of slides and then we'll just jump in. I promise this will be really fast, but again, I like to be able to sort of understand what's happening in the big picture and then sort of drill in from there. So I appreciate you kind of following along here. So this was kind of astounding. What you see on the top here is like what we looked at is every single search page on Amazon that is of importance. So that comes out to about 200 some odd million search pages in January that all started from a customer search. So started from the Amazon search bar and then it resolved to a search page. And then we looked at what are all the products that show up on that search page, all right? So if you're following so far, that big blue line on the top shows that most products on Amazon are not really showing up as effectively as they could be. And that's kind of astounding to me because it's sort of, you know, the conventional wisdom is like, oh, it's a gold rush or you know, that kind of we're all here because it, you know, we recognize that there's great opportunity, but at the same time, there's a lot of work that still needs to be done, right? So when you find your product, when you actually do get it into the marketplace, that is just that's just getting started. Like that, then the real work begins of like, how do I become shown? And I think that what's most illustrative about this right here is that just because you found that niche, just because you found that opportunity, it doesn't mean your work is done. And if we look at this worldwide, it actually holds true as well. So that way at the bottom there, that big line that we were just previously looking at is the United States, right? And so what does it say? 72% of the products that we found in the United States show up on less than 5 search pages, right? So that's a lot. And if we look way up at the top, there's Australia. We know that Australia is just kind of relatively getting started. It's about 2 years old if we look at like just the true e-commerce side of things, getting on to 2 years, but there's a huge amount of opportunity for sales in Australia alone if we can get the marketing right. And so this is like the opportunity that I was telling you about. It's like most of the products that just get put out there don't really get that level of visibility that's necessary in order to make those sales. And so what does that level of visibility represent? So there's a sweet spot. So if we dig into just like all of that data across Amazon, and we just take out that, you know, that really large group of less than five or less search pages, then we see a much different picture emerge, right? And so what this should say to you is that, okay, your goal as you release products, as you get out there and you start marketing things, your goal is to show up on between 10 and 20. To set that as your own goals, like between 10 and 20 search pages. And to be clear, it's the first page of search, right? Because it's kind of, as the old joke goes, you can bury a dead body on the second page of search, right? This is the same with Amazon, because Amazon is a product search engine, right? So let's think about like what are the strategies and what are the techniques that we use to get on those 10 to 20 pages, because as you can see, like that's where a lot of the products in the US market are kind of getting the most amount of visibility if we kind of break up the distribution. All right, so now we're getting into everything. So again, thanks for following along, but I felt like that was a really important point to kind of make, which is to say like understanding the world around you is key for you to be able to be successful on Amazon. So how do we find the top product on Merchant Words? Like I said at the beginning, this is one of the main use cases for us because finding the majority of finding a right product is finding the people that will buy it. And so they're telling Amazon what types of products they want. and how they want it. So that's the first point: finding demand, checking pricing. So there's everybody's kind of got their own sort of sweet spot for pricing, but you want to consider that roughly about a third of that is gonna come to yours. And I'm generalizing, of course, but if you think about like how you break down your overall kind of cost of goods, it's about third to Amazon, third to advertising, third for your profit, right? Sorry, third for your cost of goods sold, and then third for you. So you want to make sure that the price point is right. Reviewing the competition, so who's around you, who's doing things well. Looking at seasonality factors, right? Are you doing costumes for American Halloween, right? Are you doing seasonal gifts? And if so, like, are you optimized for that? Product quality and then added value. These are things that are less to do with merchant words, but still things that really wanted to kind of make sure that we all sort of had the ability to touch on and understand as well, and then basically source it. Let's test and see what's going on. Okay, so with that said, we have a major announcement today. So as Neil was mentioning earlier, we are doing a lot of really cool stuff lately. And as of today, wanted to be the first to let you all know that you can go to merchantwords.com right now and search for Australian products, which we've been indexing for the past couple of months now. So that's ready to go. That's ready to go on merchantwords.com. If you only sell in Australia, you can just go and get Australia data. If you sell worldwide, we have data from all over the world now for products. So supply and demand from all over Amazon. All right, so let's get started. Bear with me a second. So let's jump in to a couple of things. And the way I'm hoping to do this is, if there are any questions, please do fire away. And Neil, if there's anything, just jump in and interrupt and let me know, like, if there's any clarifications that are needed. But I'm gonna throw a lot of information everybody's way, and hopefully, like, it'll answer some of your questions. But again, like, if there's anything that we want to drill into, I'm here for you.
Okay, if I get anything coming in, feel free to just pepper Mark with questions, and then I'll kind of relate those questions through to Mark, just so you guys know how it's going to work. Super, super cool so far. I'm loving this.
Awesome. Okay, so here's Merchant Words, and what we're looking at right now is called Classic Search. So this is how we've built our business over the past years, and this is originally, the keywords, right? On the left side here, there's a bunch of other tools that we've subsequently built to do various things that will help you find opportunities for either marketing or products, right? So here's Classic Search. We have what's called the product targeting tool. This will help you understand which products kind of are in the most immediate area to you. So if you're creating product targeting campaigns, or if you just kind of want to do like a quick strength, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, or what's known as a SWOT analysis, that's available to you right here through the product targeting tool. We have a digital shelf tool, which is, this is one of the things that just, we are actually going to invest a lot more of our resources in the future. So the digital shelf is just this concept of imagine you walk into, I apologize, but I'm not sure what the stores are out there, but imagine there's like a Walmart or a Target, if they're kind of best American examples that I can think of. Everything has shelf space, right? And on that shelf space, the products vie for position, like which ones are at eye level, how much space does a particular brand take up, and so on and so forth. Well, the same thing really happens on Amazon. And so what this tool endeavors to do is take keywords as ways that are paths to all of your products, and then find out which ones are, which products are winning and losing in terms of like what the share of voice is. And so that's digital shelf. The next one is emerging trends. So emerging trends is one of the core strengths of our company and our product, which is to say, like, every month, Amazon turns over about 30 to 40% of their keywords, and so that means 30 to 40% of keywords are new. Maybe they're new from last year. They could be seasonal, or maybe they're brand new, right? So these are all the different areas where we can dive in a little bit. But this is a really, really fertile place for finding the brand new search trends and then looking for them over time to make sure that there is an opportunity for growth there. But that's what emerging trends is, and we'll dive in a little bit. I just wanted to kind of give you a quick cursory overview of all the tools at first. Collections is a place for where you can save all of your work, right? So you can, as you're doing your research, you can stash it into a collection, and then you can update it whenever the new searches come in. We'll update the search volume for you. So it's a way for you to track your progress as you're doing your product research. So that's the collections. Keyword multiplier is our way of looking at various terms. Like if you're selling, I wouldn't recommend this, but if you're selling essential oils, it's a way for you to go in and look for alternative terms for essential oils, and so on. And then page one search is the area where you would go in and search for all of the products that show up. So remember I said like there's a bunch of search terms that show up on that resolve to search pages. Well, this is a place where you can just search the search pages and what shows up on there. And then the last one is ASIN plus. So these are all of the products that are responsible for, sorry, all the keywords that link to our particular product that have shown that product on page one of search. Okay, so we'll go over those in depth, but I just wanted to give you a general orientation to things. I do want to start in the most simple place possible, and that's classic search. And what I just typed in is an asterisk. So this is a bit of a hack for our site where typing in that asterisk will show you all of the top searches for Amazon. And this is what you were looking at when I first started to share my screen. So these are all the top searches for Amazon over the past 30 days. And what you can do is start digging into here because, you know, we're not selling face masks, not selling really Nintendo Switches, right? But what you can do is use this as an area to look and see, okay, well, I really don't have an idea of where I want to go. I know that I have this investment money that I want to, you know, put into e-commerce, or maybe I'm doing well and I'm ready to branch out my e-commerce business into other product lines to build out my brand or to build out my presence on Amazon. This is one way to start when you don't have a general area to look in, excuse me. You just type in the asterisk, and this is good for all over the world. So, you know, for those that are selling in Australia, we can hop into Australia and we can look over the past trailing 30 days. What were the kind of very, very, very top of the funnel searches that showed that were driving some of the most traffic to products on Amazon? And perhaps this is not a surprise to many of you, but you know, wireless chargers, wireless earbuds, like these are very like perpetual searches that don't necessarily change as much from month to month because they just kind of they just take up so much of the eyeballs. And the reason why they do, and one of the core ingredients to merchant words is essentially this number right here, this little thing called depth. Okay, so depth is a little bit of a tricky concept to kind of grasp at first, but I'll do my best to dive in on it. When you go to Amazon and you type in, let's just say you type in the letter W, right? So of all of the words in the English language that could possibly show up with the word W, wireless charger shows up on the list, right, of autocomplete for Amazon, right? And you can see this for yourself as you go in, and I'm sure you've gone and searched for something, and when you type, there is that predictive search that shows up. Well, again, they could have put in water bucket, right? But water bucket isn't something that really sells that much. So the wireless charger and wireless earbuds are both ones that show up in wireless keyboards. So we know that like this is an extremely valuable keyword because humans are lazy, right? And so we kind of want to get to things super fast. And so as soon as I type in W, I'm going to get my wireless charger, and that's gonna eat up the lion's share of the traffic. Okay, we're not all selling wireless chargers, so that's not super helpful. Perhaps it is, but perhaps it's not. So how do you use depth to your advantage as you're doing product research? Well, you can just kind of narrow it down. And what I can say is after looking at the data for 4 years, where the sweet spot is, because I showed sort of the sweet spot of products that showed up on page one, but there's a sweet spot for depth, meaning most of the keywords that we collect, if you can imagine in your mind's eye, there's a distribution of those, a standard distribution of those. Most of them will show up between a depth of 8 and 15. Okay, so that's sort of like your mid-tail, if you will. It's not really long tail, but mid-tail, meaning that's where most of the keywords, so roughly 60 to 70% of the keywords we collect fall into the 8 to 15 depth range. So you can start there and sort of figure out which ones, like which ones are most valuable to you. So we can go in and just filter, and then what it will do is it'll remove all the ones where we don't necessarily want to kind of compete on, because I mean, really, who's going to compete against Harry Potter? Maybe you can, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of kind of noise out there that you can eliminate just by using filters. And depth and search volume are kind of correlated. So we use depth as one of the main ingredients to come up with search volume. And so we had a question actually on search volume and on the accuracy of it. And so I'll kind of just pause quickly to talk about that, because that is how we essentially built our business, was off of search volume. So way back when in 2012, 2013, when we released merchant words was and still is a system of relative strengths. Okay, how much stronger is one keyword than another? Depth is one way to determine relative strength, right? Because for example, this one, you have to actually type in IPHONE space XR, right, to get this keyword to show up in autocomplete, right? So that's way, way less important according to Amazon. So there's a relative strength there. And then it's a question of how often does it show up and so on and so forth. So our own intellectual property, our IP, if you will, is based off of knowing what the relative strengths are. And then once we get the relative strengths, then what we do is we order everything. We literally say, okay, what's the number one keyword, like you just saw, and then what's keyword number 100 million in the US, right? So that we order that complete list from 1 to 100 million, and then we say, okay, well, what are some reasonable, like, how do we start to think about searches and search traffic? And then we take all of that information and then we distribute searches across all of these keywords, right? And so that I would say that the main thing about merchant words is to think about, like, okay, given that we can see, you know, a vast majority of what is being searched for every single month on Amazon, we know how to order all those things, and then we know how relatively strong these things are from one to another. And so when you think about things like depth, and especially when you think about search volume, you want to think about the relative strength of it, right? Because something with, you know, 18,700 is relatively way weaker than a million, right? So that's the way that I would encourage you to really think about merchant words, is like to gauge the market and gauge the strengths over everything. Okay, so hopefully that addresses certain things about search volume. How do we get our data? And you know, there's a lot more information we can get into about that as well. I'm happy to dig in, but you know, I'm gonna just push forward if that's okay. A couple of other things to note are, you know, from the left of search volume are search trends. So general search trends will tell you, you know, how, like, did we see this term over the past month? A flat line doesn't necessarily mean that there's no searches for it, because as you can see, we have 18,000. What this actually tells you is that it spiked twice over the past 12 years, and then it remained relatively constant at about 18,700. And if you drill into this one, you can kind of see, oh, okay, there were two spikes, April and June, probably when they had their release. And then as you can see, it just kind of tapered off. So there are searches, but again, relatively speaking, they're a lot lower. This green trend line will tell you that. And so that's one way to sort of scan this data as you're looking at a very, very broad area, a very broad type of keyword, a set of keywords where we're not necessarily bound to a category. You can just literally go, you know, scroll down this list here and look for things that are on an upswing, right? So here's an example: Fitbit Charge 2. Well, it's again like brand product, and you know, maybe I'm not sure what the reselling rules are for this, but you know, as an example, it's a good one. Whereas to say, like, it kind of dipped off and then okay, it's starting to grow again. So this is one way just to kind of eyeball a lot of information to sort of grab and say, oh, look, okay, here's one, baby bottle, right? And so if there's, you know, if that's something that's interesting to you, you can see, okay, baby bottles, that's on an upward swing, right? There's about 6,000 searches. On average, the 3-month average is actually going up, which indicates that, you know, it's actually on an upward trend. So what we might be seeing is similar to what's happening last year. So here's April, and then over here's March, sorry. So you might see another peak and then it drops off again. This is where I would encourage you to just kind of add this to a collection, and then, okay, that's kind of an interesting opportunity. I'm going to save it for later, so you can just basically post it in here. I'm not going to do it right now, but basically you can add it to your collection. And then at that point, when you've named it, you can refer back to it and you can see, okay, did it actually follow the same sort of trend that happened last year in April, where it increased dramatically and then it started to taper off towards the summer months, and then it started to grow again. Because then that can be a part of your marketing mix, right? So if you're selling baby bottles, or if whatever it is that you're interested in fits to this pattern, then you can see that there's perhaps a level of predictability in your marketing. Other things of interest on this side right here is there's related keywords. This will help you to see all the other search terms that have products that show up similarly to if you searched for baby bottle. Okay, so we'll reiterate. So if I type in baby bottle, there are a set of products that show up. That's right here on this side, right? So we can dive into those in just a minute. But those products also show up on other pages, because remember that graph that I was showing where, you know, most products show up on less than 5, but the ones that are winning are showing up on between 10 to 20 and 25. Well, all those other search pages are search keywords, and they have similar types of products, which we then use to figure out, okay, well, if you're searching for baby bottle, then these ones, newborn bottle, these ones are also applicable, right? So these are things that have similar types of products, and that's related words. Over on the right side, the page one stats. These are just things about the page itself. So again, not the greatest example, but I want to kind of show you what this means anyway. So if we dive in, I'm just going to click on that button. A lot of these numbers that you see on that list there will be represented on this page here. So these are all the products that show up in Australia for search for baby bottle. And so you can go in and you can see at a really high level, okay, the maximum price is $595, which is okay, that's kind of interesting. But the average price is really kind of what you should be thinking about. And then the review count, so minimum and maximum reviews. Reviews has been used as a proxy for sales, so you can kind of gauge for how busy this page is from a sales perspective by looking at the total number of reviews. Is there an 800-pound gorilla lurking on this search page? Down toward the bottom, this is all data that comes from Amazon itself. So here's the actual products themselves, the ASIN to the left, what organic position that they rank for baby bottles. So it's sorted by organic position, what the price was at the time that we collected the data, what the reviews and the star rating were, and whether or not it was Amazon's choice. Again, all of these metrics from when we actually collected this, that's when it showed up. So one thing that is really useful from this point is, okay, so let's say again, like not the greatest example, but I'm hoping that you're following with the overall approach or the process here for kind of starting really broad and then narrowing things down, is to look at examples then, right? So much that is on the Amazon, because there's like about 200 million in the U.S. Unique ASINs, so much of that is like represents a huge variety of things that are out there. So there's a probability that like there's either something that's very similar or the same product that you can do better on Amazon already. And so the approach would be to see, okay, well, what's working, right? What is working for certain things if I was to be selling baby bottles, which again is not the greatest example, so apologies. But so let's dig in, and what I would do is just start to eyeball and look and see, okay, well, which ones have the highest reviews? Because again, reviews are a proxy for sales. And let's see what's working for the ones with the highest number of reviews. So I'm going to grab this one that is closest, and I'm just going to click on this button right here. And what this is going to do is it's going to launch a reverse ASIN search. Is what the industry jargon is for that. Was basically just saying, where does this product, this ASIN, show up on search, and what are all the keywords? All right, so this is another one of our tools, again, that allows you to reverse engineer the marketing mix for various products. And so what is up top here is that you say, okay, well, this is all of the stuff that you saw on the previous page. We can click over and see it on Amazon if you want. These are just convenience links for you. These are all the different metrics that we were able to pull from Amazon, so nothing new. Over on the right here, what I'm going to do is actually generate one of these reports, because I'm going to get to it in a little bit, and the report itself takes about 2 to 3 minutes to run, because we crunch about 1 million keywords just to get to each report. So I'm going to go ahead and just generate this right here. It's just more of a convenience link, and like I said, we'll hop into that later. While that's getting started, I'm going to walk through the rest of this tool. So the organic search ranking distribution. So this is given all of the keywords. So we found 87 terms in the Australian market for this particular breast milk bottle. Where does it show up, right? Where does it show up the most? And then where's all the search volume? So this is kind of a mashup of two different types of metrics. On the left axis, we're counting the total number of keywords, right? So these are all the number of keywords where this product shows up in the first position, second position, third position, and so on. And then on the right axis is just the sum of volume. So whenever it shows up on the first position, what are all those keywords? What's the search volume for all those keywords? And then if we added it together, like how much potential market reach, or what's their potential share of voice? That's what volume sum is. And then the average is, okay, well, like taking 6 keywords and then dividing it by that, you get 3,863. So that's just at a glance. It's more of like a way for you to gauge what the performance is for this particular ASIN. I see that our report is ready. I'm just going to close that out for a second so I can kind of go down here and just show you what is on this list as well. So again, what you're looking at are all of the keywords where this product shows up on the first page of search. And so as you're looking, you see the Medela bottles. So this is brands, baby bottles, feeding bottle. So these are all the places where it shows up, what its organic rank is, results. So this is how many products that Amazon says shows up. So this is also an opportunity, chance for you to find an opportunity as well, which is to say, if there's something that, let me see if I can find a better example, like, these are all brands. Okay, so this is decent. Okay, baby feeding bottle. There's 8,000 results, which means there's 8,000 products that Amazon says matches, which is high, but it's kind of just sort of working with what I have in front of me right now. That's a consideration, like you say, okay, there's 8,000 products, can I fit one in? The better number, honestly, is like, things that are less than like, 1,000, right? That's like better opportunity for you to insert a product, but you also want to kind of balance that out. So the quick math that you would do is you would divide the results by the search volume, right? Just do a simple division, and then that will give you a sense for like, what the ratio is for results to searches, and then you can see, okay, is there an opportunity for you to put in there? But rule of thumb, you probably want to look for something that has around 200, 300 or less results, because that number can vary depending on where in Australia you're searching from. You'll have different results in Brisbane versus Melbourne versus Sydney, depending on how Amazon has set up their distribution centers. So this is nonetheless still a great way to find out where opportunities lie for you. Okay, so just to recap then, ASIN Plus allows you to look at a glance what marketing works for any given seller. And you can look and see, okay, well, how are they performing? You can see, well, okay, most of their sales tend to fit within the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keyword range. So you can almost just sort of like one thing we do as a community is just sort of click in. You can click this and it'll filter all of the terms below by all of the keywords that show this product in the third position. So again, as a part of your product research, you can say, okay, well, this product is selling a lot and it's ranking on all these different things, and okay, it's showing up on pages that are relatively low competition. So this is a way to see, okay, well, what's working for other products that are similar to what I'm trying to consider. And then the last thing is, okay, well, once you've sort of distilled all of this, and you've come up with a product that is a good one to sort of emulate or to learn from, that would be the digital shelf report. And so I'm going to pause just for another minute because I threw a lot of information before we jump into even more information to see if there's anything that I might be able to address for anyone.
That was some next level data analysis. So a question for you. This is just from me, not from anybody else. So given that that is a good calculation to make, just to do a simple division, could we have a request for that? There's just a simple little tool that does that for us. So we can actually see at a glance a column that has done that division between the number of products being shown versus the searches, the number of products available versus the number of searches per month. And so we can actually get that data directly in that sheet.
Absolutely. And if it's all right, could I actually ask just do a quick straw poll of like how would you describe that, Neil? Like, what would you, because the way I think about that, and I don't mean to prejudice what I'm about to ask for, but just as a way to kind of, kickstart the conversation a little bit, would that be like an opportunity index, right? Like I kind of, words are very important to us at Merchant Words, right? So,
yeah.
naming it correctly is also very vitally important. So how would you think about like describing that particular metric?
Well, let's do a straw poll then. So let's just scroll your screen up. Let's just show everybody what we're talking about, so they can kind of see what we're thinking. So, if you'll recall, one thing that Mark spoke about was if you look at the results column, you can see there's 1,000, and then it says less than 100, less than 100, and 2,000. What Mark has said is if you take that information, which is simply put the number of products that are indexed on Amazon for that given search term So Mr. Della, for instance, there's 1,000 products that are indexed for that particular thing. And then if you divide that by the actual number of searches that are done per month, it gives you a very, very good indicator as to the relative strength or weakness of that product relative to other things. And of course, you'd want that to be a lot less rather than a lot more. So if you've got like 10,000 products, 10,000 results, and only 5,000 searches being done for it, then clearly that's a very, very competitive niche with not much money to be made, versus there's less than 100 products currently indexed, but there are 5,000 or 2,500 searches being done for it. Then what that demonstrates is actually there is demand there, but not much supply. Okay, that's what that demonstrates. So how would you call that? What would you name that when you were thinking about it? Competitive indexed, opportunity score, lots of opportunities. Maybe you planted that seed for them. You know how it goes though. Search strength ratio, demand score, demand index. There you go. Supply v demand. Oh, that's a good one. Supply versus demand. So demand score, demand index. And then Michelle says you could turn that into, although that would be, I believe, fairly complex to do, traffic lights. So green is go, red for no, amber for do more research, for instance. A thermometer, a merchant score, supply versus demand, etc., etc. So supply versus market ratio. Lots of love for the traffic light idea, though. Okay, lots of people saying, yeah, the traffic light idea, which I think was Michelle's idea. So if you do go ahead with that, clearly you'll have to pay Michelle an ongoing royalty every single time.
That scales up nicely for Michelle, doesn't it?
That's
I
a
do
great
appreciate
idea.
it. Thank you very much. No, that was wonderful. Thank you. I wasn't really expecting that good of a response. So from the bottom of my heart, thanks. Is there anything else I might be able to clear up before I kind of jump in to anything? Because I do realize that it's 10:50. I don't know, Neil, how you normally do things, and I want to be respectful of people's time, but I also do want to be able to dive into various other tools that we can kind of talk about as well. But what are your thoughts on kind of moving forward right now?
Lots and lots of people saying, keep going. So keep going, mate. You're good as gold.
Wonderful. Okay. So let's go. So I mentioned the digital shelf reports. Okay, so this is again how we can look about beating your competition. So we'll dive into the Australian market because, like I said, we just released this today for you folks out and selling out in Australia. So this is the report that sort of measures this one product's share of voice on Amazon. So this is a hugely important way to think about not only sort of finding a product and being competitive, but also just, how do you, what should you be doing as you go in and optimize your listings and run your ad campaigns, okay? So I'm gonna do a couple of things because there's a lot of information on the digital shelf report that I'm gonna try to convey again, but you're perhaps are not gonna be able to get it all. And so one thing I will mention is that on every single page, we try to put a tutorial. So if you're kind of stuck at any point, just kind of click on that, and we have sort of video walkthroughs that kind of talk about how to use the various reports or the various tools on Merchant Words. And then, of course, if you're ever stuck on anything, just reach out to us, and we'll be glad to help you in any way we can. Okay, so digital shelf. Again, starting from top to bottom, this is the product. Just here's some convenience links. This one will take you back to where we just were on our ASIN Plus tool. And then this one will launch the product on Amazon. And then down at the bottom, we've started to sort of generate some more metrics or a better understanding of where this product sits overall. Okay, so from left to right is the win percentage. So what this says is among all of the competitors that we are able to find below, and you'll see it below, how many times does this product sit in a higher position than its competitors? And 27% is actually, it's not so great. The rank average is 14, so it's not not awesome. So one thing that is really interesting is sort of this mix right here. So the missing keywords. So this is all of the keywords where the products that we were able to find show up on the first page of search, but this one does not. So this is a really important report that I'll share in just a minute in terms of like what keywords lead to sales for your competitors, but not for you. These are all the keywords that you share with your competitors. So, 87 keywords is really not that high, which could mean a couple of things, right? Because Medela, for those, it's a pretty big brand, at least in the United States it is. And so 87 keywords tells me a couple of things. It could be that this is one of many child ASINs, right? So you see there's a pack of 3. This could be like a pack of 6 or a pack of 12 bottles, right? So this could be one child ASIN that shows up on 87 search pages, and so it could perhaps is not the main one, but that's one theory that would explain why the number of overall keywords is pretty low. And then the share of voice. So this number right here basically says, okay, given the 87 keywords that we had, how many potential views do we do? And so the way that we calculate your share of voice is to look at how many, first of all, how many keywords are on there, and then what's the volume of every single keyword for all those 87 keywords, and then what's your position on all of those places. So just very simple math. Let's say one of the keywords had a search volume of 10,000, right? And in that search volume, in those 10,000 searches, let's say that this product occupied the #1 position. Well, we've been able to figure out certain ways to say, okay, the #1 position gets about, let's say again for ease of math, is like gets 10% of those clicks. Then you can quickly deduce and say, okay, 10% of that search volume number is 1,000, and so we say, okay, great. So for that particular keyword, we estimate that they'll get maybe about 1,000 based on like the clicks we think that product gets. And then on aggregate, that's the share of voice. So on all of those 87 keywords, we calculate about how many times we think you can potentially get clicks on all those keywords. And then we say, okay, it's about 70,000. So that's your so-called share of voice. And that's the last metric that we generate, because then over here are all things, like I said, we get from Amazon. Okay, so that's just the beginning of this report. But these things are important because they show up below for all of your other competitors right here. So these are all like, we do the same sort of calculations for everything else that shows up for the competing products to this one. And a lot of these are Medela up front. So that's probably what. So now we find, like I said, Munchkin. So now we're starting to find like all these other brands. So one of the things I will note is because of the way that we generate this, which is to say we look at overlapping keywords, sometimes when you are a really big brand, you will show up alongside of your own products. And so that's kind of what this represents. Okay, so same kind of graph here for organic rank performance that you saw previously. So I'm just kind of, I'll just skip over that because hopefully that is been explained well enough. And then some other ways. So those same metrics that I just went over above, on the left side here, we can go through and look at, okay, how do you compare to the average of everything below, right? So you can see that the competition tends to have a greater share of voice on average than you. They also have more page 1 keywords, better rank average. Sorry, this one actually has a better rank average than the competitors. Has a higher number of reviews, better star ratings, and better price average. So this is just a way for you to start thinking about different ways how you can sort of kind of fit into this overall sphere. Because remember, what we're trying to measure with this particular report is your footprint, right? Is your footprint or your competition's footprint. Right down below are these are the word parts. So these are different areas where we took, like I said, this report is generated from up to 1 million keywords, and then we just look and see, okay, what shows up the most. And not surprising, baby, cup, bag, bottle, pump, milk. Those are ones that show up the most, but perhaps not so surprisingly, sterilizer, right? So if you're selling a baby bottle, like you might want to consider a sterilizer because it shows up as something. So there might be something that's a differentiator for you. So this is one way to see frequently seen words, and if you want, you can kind of dive in and see all of those words in a full list. Like all of these will generate a new report for you. And so just by clicking on that, you'll get a full list of all of the terms, how many times they showed up, and then how many times they showed up in a title. So this is kind of key, because what we'll get into after this is the SEO side of things. We'll touch on it at least, and how we can utilize all this data to create some really killer titles. And then below is, again, all their competitors. So you can, if this is not your cup of tea, this particular user interface, you can click on table view if you just kind of want to be able to scan through it a lot faster. But basically the same sort of things that I just went over above are all available to you right here in the form of a table or a list view. And then if you also want to work with this data offline, or in something else, you can always export it or just copy. Like, you can just grab all these ACE and say, yep, that's a good job. I'm just going to copy it to a clipboard and then paste it wherever you want. So the one last thing I want to touch on is mentioned at the beginning, is the list of missing keywords. So let's dive right in. The missing keywords is a list of all of the terms that other products that were on the report below showed up for, but you did not. Okay, so see, Medalla bag, Medalla pump, breast pump. So all of these are ordered from Relevance. So as we find the products that sort of match the most frequently, we put it in this list. And so again, like if this was something that you'd finally kind of whittled down into and said, okay, like this is important, then you want to compete on Medalla bag, because it's really, really relevant, and you're not showing, and your particular product is not showing up. Okay.
Can I just interrupt there, Mark? I think this is a unbelievable. This is the tool that I use probably more than any, because this tells you where your free money is. For me, that's what this really tells you. It tells you what you're currently ranking for and what are the opportunities, the search terms, the customers that you're missing out on by not ranking for these, that your competitors are ranking for. This is your free money stuff. That I absolutely love this particular feature. Nobody else has got this. This is a super, super cool one. Sorry, Mark, I had to interrupt there because it's a great thing that I use all the time.
No, I appreciate it, Neil. And that's just another example of why you're so good at what you do, because the term free money is exactly right. I just could not have put it better myself. All right, so the relevance score. So this is, so we said that's how relevant it is to your product. Here's the search volume, when we saw it show up for that, how many competitors showed up on that particular page. So of the list of competitors that were on the previous page, how many of them showed up for this particular term? What was the average rank for them? What was the average reach? How many reviews were on the page? How many results? How many products matching showed up on there? And then whether or not this term is misspelled. So this is something that Amazon sends back and says, oh, this is a potential misspelling. So that's kind of what that is right there. So yeah, this is a hugely valuable report. If you want to look at it actually on a on a kind of head-to-head basis, what you can do is go down to here, and let's use Munchkin Bristle Bottle Cleaning Phillips. There we go. So I'm going to look at this particular product versus mine. So what this does is the previous report looked at all of the competitors. And you could actually do more of like a head-to-head comparison by just clicking on that link that I just shared with you. And then you can look and see, okay, for this particular product, when did it show up? What was my competitor's rank? What was their potential reach? How many reviews were and the results were on the page? Sorry, this is not sorry, I apologize. This is the missing keywords one. So this is the one where this product showed up, but yours did not, right? So very similar to what you did. And then, excuse me for 1 second, but the shared one is more of the head-to-head comparison. All right, so over on the right side, so here's the search rank and then what my competitor's rank is. So you can actually sort by this as well if you want to, and you can see all the places where I showed up with my product, and then where my, in the first position, second position, and so on, and where my competitor also showed up. And so this is more of like the head-to-head comparison. And then you can compare like who had the bigger reach for this particular term. So as it relates to kind of what Neil was saying, so this is like the other side, in a kind of a corollary to all that, which is to say like, okay, we're kind of competing on this particular term right here what can I do to step on the gas and make sure that this, this competitor doesn't gain any ground on me, because this is a pretty decent search term for me. So this is one way that you can kind of look at this report. All right, so this is the missing keywords report. So let's now go back to, all right, so this is the digital shelf. Now, hopefully that was a good enough overview for everybody. I'm going to show you one last thing that can be super helpful for product research, and then we can dive into some SEO tips and maybe dive into some questions after that. Because again, I want to be super respectful of everybody's time. And thank you very much for staying online and staying engaged with us. Okay, so this is what we call the product targeting tool, which after a few months of it being live and feedback might be a little, might have slightly missed the mark, and so we'll be thinking about new names for this one in the future, just in kind of full transparency. But this is a similar kind of thing to the digital shelf report, but this is a much more lightweight, faster way to get an overview of what's happening. So I've got a bunch of these prepared already for the US market. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna, which one looks good to you, Neil?
Look, so which one looks good? What have we got? Well, let's do the binder set. I'm just thinking about things that will sell in Australia as well, or the LED night lights. Either of those would sell in Australia.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm gonna click into this one. Thank you, Neil. So what this does is it looks at, okay, well, of all the products that are out there, and this is in the US market, we could do this for the Australian market as well. But basically, we're gonna look at what's what my partners hate, but I tend to refer to this as a product graph, which means like if you think about like so this goes back to my kind of growth hack days, but in social media there was this concept of a social graph, right? Like who are you connected to, and who are those people that I'm connected to, and who are those people? So you kind of grows this huge network of things, right? Well, in Amazon it's very similar, right? So as you saw with the digital shelf, that where one product shows up, other products show up, and then other products show up alongside those ones, and so on and so forth. So what this product targeting tool endeavors to do is give you ways of just sort of analyzing those connections, and then ultimately producing like a set, right, where that'll allow you to say, okay, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, where are my opportunities and threats, if you will. So the main things to kind of think about are, okay, well, here's my base ASIN. So let's assume that I'm selling these night lamps. How many products have a higher price than mine, same price or lower price? How many products have higher reviews, same reviews or lower reviews? Same thing for star ratings, right? So with the wisdom of the crowds, basically what everybody does is they just go and click on these green buttons right here, right? Because they want to see like where this is the opportunity finder, right? So a bit of it is like saying, okay, I'm out in the market now. What are the opportunities? The other thing you can do with this one, with the ASIN Plus report, with the digital shelf report, is just to find competitors that are out there. If you're in sort of pre-launch phase, see what they're doing, see where they're winning and losing, and then use those as opportunities as well. So this can be very much used as a market intelligence report as well. So I kind of would encourage you to sort of think a little bit more broadly, because the data that is used to generate and support these reports is quite immense. Okay,
can I make a little interjection here, Mark?
Please do.
So again, this is a really great tool that I love to use. Okay, so here's how I use this. Very, very simply. I put in my own ASIN for my own product, and then I get this great information back. And then what I look at is how many people are selling pretty much the same style of product, but selling it much more expensive. AKA, can I increase my price? I want to be in top 10% of prices. Can I increase my price? That's the first way I use this. Second way I use this for reviews. How many people and who are the ASINs who've got a lower review than me? Okay, so I want to find people who are selling the same thing as me, but I've got low reviews from me. And then what I do is I export all of those ASINs and I use them in an Amazon placement campaign, because what I'm going to show to potential customers is it's the same product, only mine's better. Okay, so that's how I use that particular one. And if you scroll up just a tiny little bit, Mark, so I can just show them that. And then the star rating, exactly the same. I want to find out who can I run a placement campaign against where my product compares very favorably to their product And all things being equal, I'm more likely to get the sale. That's how I use this. This is a super cool, very fast way of looking at your market and looking at where you can increase your price and looking at who you can compete very favorably against.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. Thank you, Neil. Appreciate the context. Okay. So yeah. So as you can see, you can kind of select these, and then the list will update below accordingly. You can then either cherry pick. Let's say I want to just go in and cherry pick these things. I can copy or download the ASINs if I've got Seller Central open, or I can export. Basically, like I can export everything that's on this list. I can export just what is visible to me. So there's, there are 10 products that are visible. I can select what's filtered. So these clicks right here. I'm sorry, what I filtered on being these ones above, pardon me, and then the selected ones which are here. So each of them give you options on what it is that you want to do based on where you are in your day-to-day work. Also have for convenience a table view, and then you can just sort things based on relevance, or if price is a really important consideration, you can sort it by price as well, and sort of increase or decrease the aperture of products that you're looking at on this particular page here. Okay. So that is the product targeting tool. You can find this here. And like I said, that as of today, all of the products, not only for the US, but all over the world, are available for both product targeting and digital shelf. Okay, cool. So last thing for product research is emerging trends. And then by just quick show of hands, because I would love to, or just maybe even Neil, if you want to jump in, if there's a particular thing that you want me to search for, given that baby bottles is probably not the most helpful, but let's see if we can find it, because it oftentimes surprises me what I'm able to find here on Merchant Words.
There you go. Okay, so now you've got a very, very unique opportunity. The general manager of this brilliant company is offering to search for your product for you. Get something typed in, super, super quick. Let's see what we've got. Pet water bottle was the first thing that came up. Cremation urns also came up. So pet water bottle, cremation urns, they're the first two things that came up.
I will do them both. Okay, so one, just as an aside, because I have to test the software day in and day out, I kind of invented this game that, if you're ever bored, just do a mashup of, like, think of the first two words that come to your head. Like, you can say pet scratcher and then type that in, and chances are you will find something. And it's just, it kind of never ceases to amaze me. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the emerging trends. So these are all of the brand new searches. So this is like the true power of what Merchant Words is able to do for you, which is to say, like, every month we kind of go through and we pull down as much data as we possibly can from the search bar about what people are searching for. And then what we do is we separate. We say, okay, these are the new ones. These are the ones to pay attention to because they just popped up on the radar. Okay, so we typed in pet water bottle, and so what this shows us is, okay, there's a pretty healthy amount of terms that show up for pet water bottle. However, as you probably already noticed, the search volume is relatively low, and that's to be expected because if you look over to the right side, you can see that this one has a depth of 12, 11, 4, which is pretty interesting, but that's probably because Visor is a brand, and perhaps even Mew is a brand. But still, like, it's still these are things where you want to start to think about, okay, well, what's actually starting to trend now, and how can I also think about that in the mix? And so I'm going to dive into one tool that I haven't talked about yet, but I'm super excited about it because we just released it about 3 weeks ago, and it's tucked under this little actions button here. So one of the challenges as a data company is we deal in so much information every single month that it's difficult for humans, even myself, like, that I work on this day in, day out, to kind of grok, like to grab it right away and to understand it. And so what we've done is we've created this tool called the Keyword Explorer. And what it does is every single page that has a report like this, you perhaps have noticed this actions button that I haven't really talked about yet, but I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about it because it's a super powerful tool. Is this Keyword Explorer. What it does is it looks at word parts. Okay, so I'm going to transition just slightly into the SEO world here a little bit, because word parts, as we know, is very important to Amazon's algorithm, because not only do they look at phrases, but they also look at the atomic units of every word. And what do I mean by that? So if we just take portable 3-in-1 pet water bottle pet outdoor, and we strip it out, we see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 unique terms in there. And so then what we could do is we can start to summarize. So I strip out all of those things and look at the list below, and I can see, okay, exactly which ones are the most powerful, right? So pet water bottle should be no surprise, right? This tells you like when it shows up, the most, right? And then we can also just look at a count. If we want to sort by how many times it shows up on the list below, these are areas where it's like, okay, this shows up a lot, but what are we, where can we start to make some gains here? It's like, okay, well, let's see, small cage dispenser. So these are things that are ways of describing the tool that I can save for later, right? And then I can dig and say, well, okay, that's kind of interesting. Small showed up 5 times, right? And so if that works for you, you can click in and see, okay, well, what are actual terms where that resolves to? So easy fill water bottle for small pets, water bottle replacements, caps, small pet. So these are all terms that are just now starting to percolate in the world of search. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of set those aside, right, and into a collection. So I'm starting to do my research now. Now maybe I want to dig into some really long tail terms, right? So I want to click on the 4-word phrases, pet water bottle 4. So 4 is actually an interesting thing overall in merchant words. Like whenever you if you have a product that has kind of varying attributes where it's like 4 women or 4 children, or this, you can actually literally type in the word 4 in merchant words, which I can do in a minute, and then it'll show you like all the different things where products where customers are searching for a product for something, right? So in this case, pet water bottle
Cool.
for guinea pigs, for rats, for cage, right? So this is actually quite interesting because if I'm only thinking about my water bottle and it's a small water bottle for dogs, maybe I ought to consider guinea pigs or rats, right, in the mix. And so what I'm doing now is I'm building up some research, and as you can see, the more I add, the more this number increases here. And this is just my list, right? So this is the list of all the items that I've selected. So they're there for me so when if I want to, for example, export, if I'm ready to go, I can export. I can click on this button, and I can either export everything I selected, or everything that's visible on the page below, or just everything. If it's all useful to you, you can literally click this button. This is everything that's on the Keyword Explorer, which represents everything on this page below, right? So this page by page kind of thing. And then you can dedupe. So as I go through, if I wanted to get everything, I'm going to go back to the keywords I selected. If I wanted to deduplicate all of my terms, I can click on single words only, and I can look at, okay, we can sort it by count. I can then copy it if I want to my clipboard, and I can paste it somewhere. Or the thing that I keep recommending is as you're doing your product research, you want to add it to a collection. So let's dive into that right now. So I created a collection. I'm actually going to go to that collection. So I clicked on that button, and I'm going to actually upload this and go straight away to that collection, just so I can see what it looks like. So I've done my research. I've done a little bit of trending, emerging trend research for my pet water bottle, and so now I've pulled this into a collection. So what this does is it is a place that's it's stored on the cloud, all of your research. And what we do is if you need search volume for it, this is the way to go as well, because the other areas, if you go into if you just download the list, sometimes it's kind of weird to add search volume, like for certain terms that don't necessarily show up on Amazon. So we're not going to like invent what the search volume is, because we are, again, remember, on this tool, which does show up everywhere. Like I said, sometimes 32 may or may not be a search. And so we didn't put search volume into the export function. And it's sort of an important point, because we didn't necessarily, again, want to make up a number for how many people search for 32 when it didn't necessarily come from the search bar. I hope that makes sense. So where search volume is important to you, I would recommend you putting it into your collection, because then what you can do is when we publish new data, you can come back here and then just refresh, and then you'll get the latest, and you can start to see how much change has happened over time. And let's get something that's a little bit more representative, perhaps. Let's see. So just to kind of give you a sense for what that change looks like. I'm gonna go ahead and update this. Now you've got a way to track, and you can look and see, okay, well, which ones are actually working for me, right? Since we had the original one was saved uh, March 4th, and then we wanted to basically now go back and see how things have changed since the data has been updated. All right, so that's collections. And if you want, you can actually do kind of a meta-analysis of this as well, because this, like I said, shows up everywhere. So you can go on and say, okay, well, I want to create a subset, right? And if you want to create like a different type of collection, you can actually create a collection from a collection as well. So it's just kind of built in that this flexibility is built into the Keyword Explorer. Okay, one last thing I'm going to hop over very quickly into, because I've kind of gone over a lot. I want to hop over to one last kind of pro tip, if you will, for SEO research, and that's over here. So I'm going to do, actually, sorry, almost forgot, but cremation urn was mentioned, so I'm gonna give that a go as well, just to sort of show you another live demo of what's happening.
So while Mark's puts that in, the way that I use that particular function that Mark's gone through, where you get to look at and analyze the words, is it's a really great way of putting together your Amazon listing copy. So what you're going to write on your Amazon listing, in your bullet points, in your title, in your description, you now got the exact data, the exact words that you require and that your listing requires to rank really well from an SEO perspective. That's how I use that. It's a really, really cool tool.
Thank you, Neil. And actually, that'll be a great segue to what I want to do next, right after we go over the cremation urn. So as you can see, it's actually pretty decent, right? So there's a fair amount of searches that show up with cremation urn. And so what I would do is actually just go back into this to see what I might be missing out on, right? Let's start, I tend to start with 1x the most, because it's just sort of less kind of signal to noise. So I can sort of see where all the trends are. Search volume is it can be important for some folks, but I like to just go and look at the count first, just to see how many times something shows up. So things like, okay, that's kind of interesting. Keepsake, medium in terms of size, jewelry, memorial, wooden, pendant. So these are all things that are now sort of starting to trend. Tree. So these are things that we want to pull in and consider to either use on your backend terms, because that can get you a little bit of bump as well, because remember, these are things that are just starting to increase, to see if that kind of gets you more visibility on a variety of pages. While the search volume is low, the thing that is so important, as you know, about long tail terms is this is a very specific customer demand, right? These are all very, very specific things that people are looking for. And so while the absolute number is kind of low, you can also surmise that these are things that are like very, especially as it relates to this particular product, very important to the customer. So you want to like think about like these as like really golden opportunities to get ahead of where your competition is. Okay. So one other thing, I'm going to transition over to the SEO side of things, because I think, Neil, thank you for kind of setting that up really well for me. And I zeroed in on this particular term. This sort of stuck out to me as interesting, because Papa is a synonym for dad. And so let's go see what shows up when you search for Papa cremation urn. And I'm going to show you a little trick for optimizing your titles. Okay, so these are all the products that show up when you search for Papa cremation urn. We're looking at the U.S. market, but we can kind of go into the various other markets, and provided this is a term there, we'll get some results there. But what I want to do is actually think about my title, right? So the title for my particular product is the one that we know gets indexed and is the highest priority in terms of Amazon's search algorithms. So why reinvent the wheel when these folks have already put in a lot of the work, right? Maybe you've already put in a lot of work and you want to actually get ahead. This is one way you can actually get ahead as well, is to launch this tool and then just look at what are the most important keywords for my competitors, right? And let's see what shows up the most, right? So hopefully all these are, some of the top ones here, probably all make sense, right? Jewelry is that's a new one right there. So let's see if that one's kind of jewelry, pendant, box, mini. Papa again. So there's another one. So these are all terms that, you know, I would encourage you, if you're optimizing your title or any sort of back end terms, like these are things that people are putting in their titles, that other competitors are putting in their titles. So you should really consider using those for your SEO strategy as well. And this is a way to fast forward a lot of that, is just to, you know, not necessarily have to, you know, kind of mine through so much data, but just literally grab what's already working for other people. And so, you know, with that in mind, we can go, and we don't have to stop there, right? Because like I said, you can save it to a collection. So let's assume that I went through the Keyword Explorer, I saved those to a collection, and now I want to expand a little bit more. Well, there's a couple of ways that you can do that. You can go, and let's see if I can find any synonyms for Papa cremation urn. So this is another tool that we didn't really talk about, but the Papa cremation urn, sorry, beg your pardon. The Keyword Multiplier is the tool, not the, that you could use to find synonyms. So what this is basically a similar kind of, it says, okay, well, where do similar products show up? So you can see other terms like Papa keepsake urn Papa, Papa urns, memorial Papa, Papa jewelry, necklace Papa. So all of these are basically searches that you can utilize. And if, let's just say, okay, let's just use this one for example, Papa Ashes necklace. So you can dive in and look at, okay, is this a pretty good term to look at? Actually, no, not so much, right? So let's not, because it's a search volume of 400. So let's go and see if we can find any other ones. Like, I'm just gonna start really broadly. Butterfingers today. Okay, so when we do find the search for cremation urn, we'll do a similar kind of thing where we say, okay, well, what are the ones that are most important for me? Like if your product is specifically for, you know, if you're trying to carve out a niche with adult ashes, then you just do the same kind of exercise where you dive in for this particular keyword and then look at the products that show up here, because these products are going to be different than the ones that we just saw for Papa. Some of them will be the same, but, you know, like these are, you know, this being a very high search term, and then go again and look at, okay, well, what are the terms that are showing up the most? Which ones are the long tail terms that I need to think about? If I'm not using, like, for example, human ashes, for honor your loved one, to your loved one. So these are all things that are showing up in the titles, right? And so why reinvent the wheel? Right, so get a head start. And if you already have, like, if your title is already working, if it's doing a really good job, then just kind of go in and see where you can add some of these to your bullet points, your description, or your what's called your back-end search terms. All of these are, you know, they're proven for SEO because, like I said, they come from the titles, which is vitally important. Okay, so that was a little trick, Keyword Explorer, that's available for basically every time you see one of these things right here. We want to allow you to be able to navigate through that data a lot more effectively and quickly. And I think with that, we are done for now.
Mark, that was bloody awesome. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and I just learned some new cool things as well. Thank you so much as well for doing those two products. I know that there's the folks who did those for, that was really cool. Wow, that is some next level stuff. I use merchant words all the time, and it still amazes me just how utterly usable and utterly the data can be used and sliced and diced and put all over the place. It's just insane. It's just incredible what you guys have put together. So I've got to ask the horrible question to you, which you may or may not like, but I've got to go for it. So merchant words, Helium 10, Jungle Scout. How are they different? How are they getting the data versus how you guys are getting the data?
Yeah, honestly, I can't speak to how they're getting the data. I have some theories that I don't want to, you know, I'm not the type of person to kind of put those out there. So I will. What I do know is they look at. So Jungle Scout started, I believe, looking at the bestseller pages, right, and then just indexing the bestseller pages. Helium 10 started. I think they were actually. Honestly, I'm not sure. But I think they now are connected to your seller accounts, and so they're pulling in advertising data. I'm not sure. I'm not. So what? It's a question we get a lot. I promise you, I'm not skirting around the issue. Just as a person, I'm not like a a race to the bottom type of person, because I do believe that like you do need to have a well-rounded approach to a lot of things. What we offer is a like probably the most comprehensive look at Amazon that you can get anywhere, because of the way
Absolutely.
that like just starting simply with the search bar, and then like looking at what resolves after the search bar will give you a very wide-ranging look. And I don't think that our competitors are doing the same thing. It's why we've existed for so long and why we continue to thrive as a company. Is because we took all of the we took all of the learnings that we did, we took all of our resources, and we just put it back into data collection. You know, there's like this, sorry, silly example, but you know, there's a quote from Bruce Lee. It's like, you don't fear the person that practices 10,000 kicks one time. You fear the person that practices one kick 10,000 times. And so that's us. Is we understand how consumer demand works. We understand how that demand then feeds into the products, and then we can make really, really powerful things together. And I think a lot of it actually, where we're at as a company, a lot of the things that we build and the things that we want to put out or only need to be like, we're only interested in what users and customers want. And so part of the reason why I'm here today is to try to get a better understanding of, well, given that we have all of this data, what is it that is the most useful to you? And you know, I've got that the opportunity column that we were able to come up with. That's, you know, those are things that I'm most interested in bringing bringing out, because it's essentially all I can really control. I can't control what Helium 10 does. I can't control what Jungle Scout does, nor do I want to, right? You have to kind of think about like, what are you trying to measure for your business at that point in time, and what's the tool that can help you get to that point. And I'm hoping that I've made a pretty good case for, you know, what we can do thus far, and you know, what we'll be able to do in the future for you.
I think so too. And I will say only, and of course I can only kind of talk about my own business and what happens in my own business, plus my clients' businesses. In terms of sales data, I know how many sales I make on my products per day, per month, etc., etc. And I can tell you, I've never ever seen accurate daily sales or monthly sales data for any of these products. So don't use that as a way of actually accurately assessing what you're probably likely to make. It just doesn't. It's just not right. It's just not right. And again, I'm privy to a lot of my clients' businesses and my own business as well. Nobody has that data. The only person that's got that is Mr. Bezos, and he ain't sharing it. He doesn't share that, unfortunately. So I take that with a very, very generous grain of salt. All right. All right. I'm going to do some questions. Let's see. Ronnie, I think I'm only using about 1% of merchant. Listen, if you're not using merchant words, what the heck? You've got to be insane not to use it. It's awesome. There's some really, really good tools. Mark could clearly talk about merchant words all day long and show us a whole lot more that it does. But rest assured, I think it's a winning thing for your business. It really, really is. So, and we get a great deal on it as well, thanks to the guys at Merchant Words. Are all the aspects of merchant words available for the AOE deal? All right, let's talk about deals. So, Mark, currently, if you don't know what's going on with merchant words, I'm going to put a link in the chat for you of how to go and get a tremendously good deal sent to all on merchant words. And if you want to start using merchant words, you should definitely hook that up. It's $29 US, and that gives you access to the global plan from memory, Mark. Is that correct?
Yeah, and then first of all, thank you for dropping the link. So Neil and I and Merchant Words, we've been friends for quite some time. We've actually grandfathered in that plan. So that global deal that you're getting for Neil is actually a really sweet deal that nobody else can get anywhere.
Nobody else gets that. Yeah. I'm sure they're like, how are we still giving that deal to those guys? It's the squeaky wheel that makes a noise gets the deal.
Yeah, so that, you know, you can get global data with that. So you can look at some of the tools are you know, they're going to be a little bit more restrained because it is an older plan, but you get data for all over the world, and that's, you know, you're not going to be able to find that on what I call our modern plans. So our modern plans you can find on the pricing page. That has a couple of more things, but you will be able to generate a digital shelf report with that. If you want any other additional, if you want to kind of run an additional report, just reach out to us. Like we're happy to give, to honor, 2 or 3 extra reports. If you want to run some extra ones, just drop us a line in customer service, and we can add some extra reports to your account if it's helpful for your business. But as as a software as a service company, what we try to do is we try to grow with our customers. And so as your needs grow as a business, we also have the data and the functionality and the tools to be able to match that. And so if you're looking to kind of get a little bit more exposure, a little bit more intelligence on the marketplace, you might want to consider some of our other plans, which are available on merchantwords.com/pricing. But I have to say that the $29 one is a really, really sweet deal.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go look at what's going on in the rest of the world, and you should, of course, I reckon that's the plan to go for. 2 things, Mark. Thing number 1, can we invite you back to do another one of these Q&As, please?
Absolutely. As long as people get value out of it, I'm here.
All right, fantastic. The second thing, I have a more advanced group, which is my inner circle. And I know within my advanced group, I've got some kind of data geeks. Can we get you back for a much more geekier version of what you've just done?
Well, you're speaking my language, Neil.
All right, so there you go. We've got Mark coming back. If you've got any final questions, I'm very, very aware of time, and also very, very aware of Mark's precious time as well. But I've thoroughly enjoyed that. Yes, get Mark for Inner Circle. All right, cool. We'll get Mark in for Inner Circle for sure.
Awesome.
But a massive thanks for coming on the call tonight, Mark. It's been our absolute pleasure for you to go through all of that and to learn heaps more about Merchant Words and how it can help us as sellers. That has been absolutely eye-opening, mate. So massive thanks for that. And also for Merchant Words as well. There's no way I could do my business without Merchant Words. I've said this heaps. It's literally made me a crap load of money, and that is part and parcel, of course, of being an entrepreneur. And so a massive thanks for that. That is life-changing money, and on many different levels. So massive thanks for that, mate. Really appreciate what you got and the Merchant Words team do.
All thanks go out to you and your audience. I really thank you for sticking around. And I mean, we only do what we do because of it's helpful to everybody else. And so happy to come back. And again, great thanks for having me on.
Will be those really annoying people who are like, Mark, can we get you back on again? And you'll be like, shit. Oh, I was just there last week.
I would love to come to Australia.
Yeah, well, next conference we'll get you over for sure.
Awesome.
Folks, massive thanks for being on the call tonight. Mark, there's heaps of love in here for you, mate. So big thanks for that, buddy. Really appreciate you being on the call for us. And we will see you all same time, same place next week. Until then, have a great one. And Mark, thanks again, buddy. Really appreciate you taking the time out. Take care, folks. Good night.